just say a little bit about the Life Story Network. Hopefully you've heard of us, but if you haven't, we're a small social enterprise based in Liverpool, although we work nationally, and I have to say we punch above our weight. We promote life story work and narrative practice because we believe that's the way to understand people. We all have unique biographies, and it helps keep people connected with family, friends, neighbourhoods and communities. I am a founder member, or rather the Life Story Network is a founder member of the Liverpool Dementia Action Alliance. We've got nearly 40 organisations now helping Liverpool to become dementia friendly, and I've been the chair for the last 18 months. And transport is one of the ways that we can help people keep connected. And the Life Story Network has led a project on behalf of the LDA about transport, and we're calling it Transport Matters. If you ask any group of older people, generally, and people with dementia, they'll tell you that transport is really important. In Liverpool, in the DAA, it's one of 4 groups that we have working to support the DAA. One is transport, one is our community education and engagement group. One is diversity. We have a very diverse population in Liverpool. We've got one of the oldest Chinese communities in the country, for example. And we have a SURF group, and SURF stands for Service Users Reference Forum. They're incredibly active. It's growing. It's a victim of its own success. Their meetings now have 60 people there, and it's becoming a practical, logistical problem about how you maintain inclusion with that many people. It's chaired by people with dementia. And Tommy Dunn, who I have done this presentation with on previous occasions, is a former train driver and a manager in the rail sector when he stopped driving trains. He used to drive the Flying Scotsman. So surf is very important to us, and getting out and about is really important. People will tell you that. We know getting out and about, staying connected, very important, particularly for people with dementia. And we know as well from the various research that's gone on. I was involved in the Dementia Without Walls project, Joseph Rowntree funded in York. We know from that work that getting lost is both a fear, people worry about getting lost, and their families and friends worry about people with dementia getting lost, but it is also a reality. People do get lost on the transport network, and when it happens, it can have very serious consequences, both for the individual, but also for the network, because if you have to close a bit of the rail network down, that's got huge consequences in terms of logistics, cost and all the rest of it. We also know that dementia doesn't feature in transport policies about disability. Every transport provider has to have a disability policy and information for people about how their service is accessible for people who are disabled with whatever impairment that may be. But it often does not include dementia because it's not being part of the mindset. Transport's now waking up to mental health as an issue, not surprisingly really, given the number of people who decide to commit suicide, particularly on the rail network. So they're waking up to mental health issues, and but they're coming to the table late in terms of dementia. So SURF, if Tommy was here, he would say that it's a priority for SURF because when we get our diagnosis, we lose our confidence and we may well withdraw. We heard earlier that 30% of people with dementia go out less than once a week. Well, transport's a key part of that, and if you can't use transport easily, that can make things even more difficult. We want to stay active, healthy and connected. Some of us need help to use transport, so having carers with us can be essential. And in Liverpool we have, as I guess in most parts of the country, we have free travel passes for over 60s, but you can't use them till after 9:30. So getting to a hospital appointment can be problematic. If you need to use the bus and take your carer with you, that's 2 fares to get there, and hopefully you'll be back within the allowable time period. But if you've got to be there early, that's a problem. And we know that there's a lot that we can do to improve transport for people with dementia. This is what people with dementia and carers told us when we did some consultation work with them. I 2 or 3 of us went around meeting various groups around the city as well as surf. And they told us that train timetables are difficult to understand. Certainly I don't find them the easiest things to do, and of course every train company displays them differently. Buying tickets is difficult. There's an immense pressure to use machines or book online, and people don't often realise that you can still go to a ticket counter and buy a ticket, and when you do that, generally people are very helpful. I found I use public transport a lot. People behind the counters are usually very helpful, but you've got to have the confidence to be able to do that and realise that you haven't got to use that fast ticket machine. Having said that, some ticket counters can be uninviting with glass shields, etc. Platform and bus route changes are a nightmare, I know, as well, and you can't hear the announcements, and there's not usually somebody who's visible who you can ask for help. People with dementia told us that most bus drivers are helpful, but some drive too fast and brake hard. Seat belts on priority seats would help people feel safer. We've talked to bus companies about this, and they say, oh, well, it's a cost, and if the bus seatbelt isn't working, does that mean you can't use the bus? Well, they get around it on coaches, so and we're not talking about seat belts on all the seats, but the 2 priority seats at the front that most buses have for disabled people or people whose mobility is compromised for whatever reason, seat belts there would be very helpful, and people would feel safer. And of course, the big issue for us that we're campaigning about is that carers who don't qualify for a pass in their own right, because they may be able-bodied and under 60, but accompany disabled or older people, have to pay a full fare. Now that's different in Wales. In Wales they have a +1 pass, which means that if you qualify for a bus pass because of your age or disability, you can take somebody with you who travels free. And it doesn't have to be a named person, it can be just it could be a friend one day, it can be your brother the next day, whatever. We don't have that in England, and that's a major issue, and we're campaigning about that locally and nationally. We held an initial seminar with representatives from the sector, and this is what they told us in response to what Tommy and his colleagues from SURF told them. They said that, as we know, policies about disabled customers don't usually include dementia. They're not geared towards people with dementia. They don't think about people with dementia when they're writing them. Some companies have provided dementia awareness training to staff, but I put a big caveat to that because some companies, and this isn't just exclusive to transport, get a Dementia Friends session, tick a box and think they've done training in dementia. And wonderful though Dementia Friends sessions are, it is not training. It is a very brief 1-hour awareness raising session. So we've challenged a few people in the sector about that. Responses to people in difficulty are limited. If you think about it, busy station like Lime Street in Liverpool, trains have to get away on time. There's a limit to how responsive and flexible you can be if somebody's in difficulties. And one of the default responses is often to get the British Transport Police or security because somebody's behaving in a way that they don't understand, and they interpret that as somebody being difficult. They might think they're drunk, they might think they're just being bolshy. So, of course, not everybody identifies themselves as disabled, so staff have to be alert to the possibility, and again, that's about raising awareness and understanding about what dementia is. Merseyrail, which is the local passenger transport executive, is very keen to work with us, and they're looking at how they can improve signage in their stations. We've found that incidents are rarely logged, and no data is routinely collected. So if you ask me, well, what's the incidence of difficulties on the rail network in Merseyside, I couldn't tell you because nobody's collecting the information. We are working with British Transport Police and with Merseyside Police to try and address that, but that's quite a complicated issue. There is scope for people's contact details to be logged when their Mersey Travel Pass is issued. And in fact, they've now got about 25 people where they've got emergency contact details logged because those people have got lost or they've got into difficulty. And so they've got an emergency contact number logged on that database. And they can do that for anybody. And I don't think many people would refuse that, actually. It would benefit lots of people, not just people with dementia. And the very good positive message was the sector is very keen to rise to the challenge. So what have we done in Liverpool? Well, we did with consultation, as I say, and we held that initial seminar to get feedback and gauge interest from the sector. We then held a larger event with a much bigger audience, which Mersey Travel hosted for us in their lovely headquarters overlooking the River Mersey, to share learning and get strategic support. We piloted some bespoke training, I'll say a bit more about that in a second, and in Dementia Awareness Week last week we did a consultation exercise with the public. We planted ourselves in Central Station and in the Mersey Travel Information Office just to talk to people about transport issues, and that produced some really rich information about people's experiences. We've explored the notion of safe havens, so somewhere where the British Transport Police can take people if they get into difficulty, because otherwise they can only take them to A&E or a police station, neither of which is appropriate, and it might take an hour or two to sort out where the person's heading for or where they come from, and to make contact with their loved ones. And we're advising Mersey Travel on potential hazards in stations. So just briefly, we did some work with Virgin Trains and did a bespoke training course for them. They were the first company to take up this offer of free training. And we planned the content to meet their specific needs. And this is where bespoke training is really important. We had people there from the customer services, telephone, counter staff, train managers, people in the catering, station staff, and it was a very rich, very positive course. They saw this very much as a customer care issue, about improving service to their passengers with dementia and their carers, and their feedback was very positive, and they want more of that. Nationally, we've been part of the National Dementia Friendly Transport Group as part of the PM's Challenge. They're discussing the development of a charter, which we've got mixed feelings about, because we think charters goes on a shelf, tick a box. What actually does it do in terms of making a difference for people? We have raised concerns about blue badges. They are national criteria, and people with dementia tell us it's quite difficult to meet the criteria to qualify. And we hosted a meeting of the national group in Liverpool who heard directly from SURF about what matters. So in terms of next steps, we're exploring the carer concessions and the emergency contacts and those safe havens and staff training with Mersey Travel, who, as I say, are very keen to work with us. We're working with Arriva Buses. We've just had a day in one of their depots, meeting their drivers and talking to them about dementia, and doing a Dementia Friends session as part of that interaction, and talking to them about developing dementia training, again bespoke for their staff. We're working with Liverpool John Lennon Airport to improve the passenger experience. If you just think about if you're going to catch a flight, it's quite overwhelming, isn't it? Security and the things you have to walk through. Do you take your shoes off or don't you? All of those things. And they're keen to work with us on that. We're working with Merseyrail. They're commissioning some new trains. So Tommy's helping them with some issues around design. And most importantly, we're trying to secure some project management time. This is a huge agenda, but it's so important. If we can support things and make things better for people to be able to get out and about and stay connected, we will make a huge difference to people. So that's what we're working on. And I think that's it. Thank you.